I feel like it's more important for us to set the tone, to have conversations in a more positive way. And I'm not saying I'm going to completely gaslight myself and not notice that I've gained 40 pounds, but I'm also not going to bring it up in a way that's more self-deprecating. Like my body was in pain and I was inflamed. I was so sad and unhappy and I felt lost. I felt like I didn't know what to do. Everything that I'd done before stopped working and I didn't see a way out.
Suffering is part of being human and being able to, this is where growth happens. Discomfort happens with growth. And I'm sorry, but there's no way to separate the two. And if you're unwilling to experience some discomfort in your life or step outside of that safety bubble, things won't change.
This is pain. This is not discomfort. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Radically Well podcast. I'm Rosie Acosta.
I'm Tessa Tovar.
And we are your hormone besties and hosts of the Radically Well podcast. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm well. I'm actually doing really well. I had a great night of sleep and I'm feeling good and just kind of like reset. And I'm super excited for our topic today. We're going to talk about body image.
Such an important topic. Actually, you prepared us today because this topic, so many of us struggle with it, right? And we don't always talk about it openly, especially, when we are going through certain changes in our lives. There's so much shame around talking about midlife or any type of hormonal changes or body changes that we go through. And I feel like body image specifically when we are in midlife is such a challenging experience because especially if you're partnered, right? If you're partnered, the ups and downs that you go through while being in a relationship are already going to be challenging when you're going through hormonal changes. But when you're used to being a certain way or looking a certain way and all of a sudden things start to change, I often hear women talk about how that was the most challenging part to go through because it's almost like this unsaid thing that's happening. And perhaps women start to experience less intimacy, less romance, less desire, all of the things that happen when our hormones begin to change. So I want to talk about this, and I want to start off by letting everybody know that the statistics in midlife, so 70% of midlife women report body dissatisfaction during the menopause transition. We know that, right? Like this is something that you and I have experienced. We've talked about some of this, during season 1, and the episode did really well. And we got a lot of questions about how we navigate those feelings and how we navigate with our partner. So I have a lot of thoughts. And one of the things that we did is we asked people, all of you, hi, hello, welcome. We asked some of you to send questions. And one of the ones that really stood out was from a listener that said, I've noticed my body changing in ways I can't control. Weight distribution, skin, energy. How do I learn to accept these changes instead of fighting them? So I thought that we would start there first, and then we can talk about how to navigate this with your partner.
Yeah. Ugh, that is such a good question. Thank you so much for bringing it up. It's definitely something that I could speak to directly.
Let's get into it.
I'm still navigating it myself, but I did want to just acknowledge, I think that the changes that we go through, we all know we're going to get wrinkles. We all know our skin's going to start to sag. We all know that cellulite is a part of life and it is what it is, right? And so some of these changes are expected and some of them are surprising. Like I've been noticing my right eye is drooping and that drives me crazy. What's that about? Anyways, I just want to say I resonate. I hear you. And yes, these are all things that we're going through together. And I'm so glad we're talking about it because when we talk about it, we can help process it. And also that shame is kind of lifted because we're not thinking these things in a vacuum anymore.
Yeah. And I want us to open the conversation to talk about it in a non-self-disparaging way, which I feel like is going to be a huge hurdle. So I'm curious if you experience the same thing. Whenever I gather with women and you're talking about these topics like, oh, my cellulite or my body is doing, or my boobs are doing this weird thing like non-perk. And and I feel like there is a way to express the I want to say like I don't want to say shame. There is shame, but the concern or the feeling of like mourning, or I don't want to call it mourning either, like the grief that comes when your body starts to change. And the reason why I bring up the non-disparaging point is I notice before I would gather with my girlfriends and we would start talking about anything body related. It was always like, oh, I'm fat and I'm fat and I'm this. And it became a very like, oh, well, look at my skin or my arms are flabby and this. And it became a sort of, no, no, no. Like it became a way to get validation from your friends for them to say like, no, no, you're not fat. What are you talking about? You're so beautiful. You're so gorgeous. But I feel like it's more important for us to set the tone, to have conversations in a more positive way. And I'm not saying I'm going to completely gaslight myself and not notice that I've gained 40 pounds, but I'm also not going to bring it up in a way that's more self-deprecating, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
You know, and I'll give you an example. Like I'm not going to, I'm going to give examples outside of my immediate circle, but it happens very often when I've seen women above 50 who gather, and it's, you know, a different time. They're in a different age bracket, but the way that they bond over a body image conversation has been, oh, well, my body used to look like this before I had kids and now I'm flabby, and like telling somebody like me, like, just wait until you get to this age. It's awful. Aging is terrible. It is the worst. It gets worse as you age, and then your body aches and everything, your skin gets all loose, and it's a little bit,
Sounds a little depressing.
it's depressing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me excited about aging. It makes me feel bad. I feel like it makes them feel bad. And I don't know how creating a circle of friends where you're commiserating is helpful, right? So the way that I like to phrase it now, especially since, you know, being a yoga teacher, and I was around all kinds of women, different ages, but I just don't believe in, if you're stating something, it's so important how you talk to yourself first, right? So we always want to start with how we're talking to ourselves first. And I'm not saying, and I'm not shaming or blaming us, because we can get into that topic on another episode. But there's this idea that there are expectations, societal expectations, maybe partner expectations, maybe our own expectations, where we feel we have to look and be a certain way. I get that. But we don't need to perpetuate the misogyny that exists in the world by self-deprecating ourselves in order to either make somebody else feel better about themselves or to make ourselves, or to placate our emotions. I think the better pathway is to say, yeah, I'm really struggling with my body right now. Like I'm really struggling with how I look, with how I feel. And I'm looking for ways to not feel so bad. If you start a conversation like that with your girlfriend, my sense is that it'll create a different energy as opposed to sitting there commiserating about how, oh, I've got this flab here and this thing, or I got to get this wrinkle, or I got to get a facelift or whatever, right? Even though it's what we do, right? I do it, like we've done it, you know, and it's okay that's it. The way I see it now, my perspective as a 42-year-old postmenopausal woman has changed so much because I've seen the power of just changing how you word things, seeing the power that it can have over your healing journey. So I really feel like if we start first with how we talk to ourselves, it'll really help us in the long run.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's such sage advice. I think the key, there's so many things in there that I want to respond to, but the first thing is having the wisdom and like being able to pause and recognize how you're talking to yourself is such a hard thing to do. And it is a practice, and it's something that I practice regularly. And you can practice that in all facets of your life, not just as it relates to how you think about yourself. And when you look in the mirror, what does that voice sound like reflected back to you? So I think it's such sage advice, but just acknowledging that it's a practice, it's not perfect. And sometimes you will go down that path of like shaming and blaming and kind of picking yourself apart. And you might fall into those conversations with girlfriends that do have a negative spin. And I mean, I still do it. I'm like, I'll look at my knees and I'll be like, I need a knee lift, something silly like that. And it feels good. I have to acknowledge that it does feel good when someone else around me says, what are you talking about? You have beautiful legs. Yeah, there's some like validation in there that feels good to me. But like to your point, what if we could kind of just take it in a different direction altogether? And I love that conversation. So I don't know, maybe for some of us, it's time for a new friend group, or to start.
She's like, dump your friends.
Maybe not completely, but like, can you either practice spinning the conversation if you notice it going down that rabbit hole? And again, noticing is the key and the kind of the first step. And also maybe creating some new friends with women who, the thing that I keep going back to is like, yeah, but we need these role models of women who are going through this phase in life where we can look at a 50-year-old woman as compared to a 50-year-old man and see that they look the same age. Like I can see their wrinkles. I can see them embracing their age. I can see the gray hair. We need some of that, whether it's in our media or our immediate environment. We need to be able to see what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, and we have conditioning, right? Like there is conditioning of what we believe beauty is. And even let's use your beautiful knees as an example. Like, why would you even think that? Like what gives us the archetype of what we think is beautiful or what we should look like? I mean, we're constantly sold the anti-aging, everything is like, do not get old. Like that is societal. And there's, again, it comes from companies wanting to sell products and make money. You're the product, and they're wanting to utilize you to siphon all of your resources because they are appeasing to our emotional needs. And our emotional needs are, I feel fear of aging. I don't want to be irrelevant because society has said that as we age, we become obsolete. Like that is what we are fed ultimately. At the end of the day, all of the commercials we see, it's like, don't gain weight, don't age, don't basically let nature take its place. That is a bad thing. So now here's what I'm selling to you to keep that from happening. And I love what you're saying. And look, we can, you're preaching to the converted. I'm with you. I think it's important for us to have role models that exhibit the reality of what life is, because when we see it, we also celebrate it, right? And look, we've talked about this in the past. Season 1, I'm not against plastic surgery at all. I've said it before, like I'm here for it. I support women because to me, I look at it from the lens of, if it's going to make you feel better, and we've had this conversation, if it's going to make you feel more confident for you, get it. Like do your thing, right? So there is a little bit of a cognitive dissonance that is happening because in one sense, it's, why do I want to get a knee lift? Like just giving an example, it's like, what is the purpose of doing this particular thing? Where is that coming from? Because here's what happens. It's just like every, the difference between poison and medicine is dose. So if we take it to an extreme, there is an underlying issue there. And so all I'm saying is, what is the underlying issue? And is it something that has been installed, some maladaptive software that we have that we've learned that it's time to change. And I feel like in midlife is when we start to recognize all of those patternings and all of those softwares that have been installed, and we start to undo because we get to a place where, statistics show that women are doing fairly well in the workplace. We're able to spend the money how we want. We're independent. We're powerful. We're strong. Not getting into the medical system or the misogyny. That could be a separate conversation. But we are at a place where we are sort of aiming to unlearn all of these things that we've learned over the last 30 years, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. And it can be kind of scary. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I started to recognize all of this, first of all, I do want to acknowledge, though, that knowledge is power. Like when we know, then we have the ability to choose, right? But my point is, like, sometimes all of this knowledge coming at you at once can be overwhelming and a little bit like enraging and scary and kind of like, well, now I don't know where to go and what to do because my whole life feels like it's been going in this direction. And I've been fed this since I was a girl through princess stories and commercials and teen magazines and all that stuff, against my mother's wishes. Like I wasn't allowed to have those teen magazines, not for a long time. She hated when I would pick up like, what were they called? Like 17 and stuff.
17, totally. 17, Teen Vogue.
Yeah. She tried to shield me from it, but against her better efforts, like here I am, a product of my culture, as well as, my environment and upbringing. It's both and. Even still, I find myself on this precipice of like, wow, I do spend an exorbitant amount of money on anti-aging products and services, and they make me feel good. It's almost like this dichotomy of like having this knowledge, choosing this path, and I'm doing it consciously. However, I'm having this internal dialogue, and now we're having it outwardly. Yeah. Great. I love this. About, okay, wait, now why am I choosing this? And yes, it makes me feel good, but is this a very, very conscious choice about where I'm putting my money, how I'm spending my time, and how that makes me feel? And look, I feel great. Like I feel really good. I look in the mirror and finally in my 40s, I love my body. I could not have said that to you when I was 17. I couldn't. And it feels like a success to be able to do that in my 40s. And it's not black and white. I'm not saying it's just one thing. Like it's not all these services and products I put on my face, right? Absolutely not. List. Yeah. Because we've talked about it before, like in season 1, I've done a lot of different things now that I never did before. Like fasting is one thing that's been a huge game changer for me. And I wouldn't say it's for everyone, but it's really worked for me and I love it. So yeah, I think if we could talk a little bit more about this kind of like, because I know I'm not alone out there. I'm not alone when I say, yeah, I have all this knowledge. I'm conscious of my choices, and I still feel this pull of being influenced by society norms of beauty standards for women in their 40s. And I mean, I'd love to share this one more statistics because we love our statistics. One study found that women over 50 are just as likely to have body image concerns, but often feel invisible in mainstream media. And obviously we know that invisibility can make it harder to feel seen and valued and celebrated in our changing bodies. And when we say 50, it's like, yeah, even women in their 50s, we still feel like this, right? And to go back to what I said before, it's like, I keep going, well, like, where are my role models for aging in a way that makes sense even?
Yeah.
It's hard to reconcile.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is really great that you're saying that. And if you really break it down, we are in, I'm going to call it mostly adulthood from 30 to 100. Yet we spend all of that time, which is the majority of our lives, wanting to turn back the clock to what, a less than a decade period where everything was youthful and young. Like it, to me, it's so fascinating, right? Where I'm like, okay, even post menopause for women that experience menopause between the ages of 45 and 55, like once you're postmenopausal, you still have half of your life. Like you will spend most of your time more for us, like you and I, we went into it earlier, right? So for us, it's longer. We will be at this stage longer. And I talked about this last year when well, it was last year, but it was this year, but now this is 2026. So I'm getting my timelines. I'm time jumping. What's it called? Quantum leaping. Um, when I went on my journey, my health journey, when I was doing the fasting and I'd lost all that weight, like it was so, and I've been able to maintain it and have been able, I'm going to say, enjoy my life, because at the time I just wanted to figure out what worked. But it is a lot of work to keep it up. It is a lot. I mean, it's your tracking, your monitoring. It can get very challenging. And I do want to circle back to what you said about the body image issue, because I had an eating disorder. I struggled with an eating disorder when I was a teenager. And so I tend to become really obsessive, and I have to really toe the line and be very, very intentional and very mindful about how I do anything food related, right? So during this period when I was doing the fasting and I was watching everything, and I just kept telling myself, like, okay, I feel so much better eating healthy and really focusing on nutrient dense foods than I did when I was, like working out, still eating pretty much the same. It wasn't a huge difference, but definitely eliminating sugar from my diet made me feel so much better. And I felt better, and my muscle response was better, my sleep was better, everything was better. But I started to feel that sort of joy being sucked out of everything that I did, because it was like, oh no, I can't have any birthday cake. Oh no, like I can't, I don't, no cookies, please. I don't want sugar. Like I don't eat sugar, whatever. And people can maintain that lifestyle. For me, it's like they can, and good for them. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like I am a sugar addict. That is my thing. I've said it forever. So there was a point, last year where I was like, I need to, I'm good. Like I'm at and I don't do the thing where, I weigh myself every day. Like I have friends that's kind of their standard. It'll take weeks and weeks, because I want to establish a sustainability model for myself where I can travel somewhere and have a dessert, have a pumpkin waffle with whipped cream. She goes,
You're making me, I'm salivating.
I want to be able to enjoy my life. And it's like, I don't have to eat 5 servings of it. 5 entire waffles I've done before, but they were small. Anyway, no judgment to myself. She's fine. But I want to be able to live, And so I want to tell women that are on a health journey that whatever it is that you choose to do, be very mindful and be very intentional, and it creates sustainability. In the beginning, like any of these programs that we've done or that I've done, where I'm doing like a 8 or 12 week program, like I love to do a program twice a year, right? Where it's like maybe right before summer and maybe right after the holidays. That's always a good time to do a little detox, right? To let yourself live a little and then, enjoy the summer or enjoy the holidays, and to be able to do it in a way that's not self-deprecating and self-disparaging, I think is really, it's hard. It is really hard. At the same time, I think it's really important for us to look for those models, like you were saying, to find people that, there's so many people creating content now that you can follow that create a more sustainable model. And by the way, like all of these biohacking and, um, the cold plunges and the fasting, like there are a lot of women doctors that don't think it's good to fast, that they've talked about how it's not great for your body. I've had a great experience. I can only speak for myself. You can only speak for yourself doing intermittent fasting. And I don't do it every day. Like I was doing it every day. And now I kind of create a sporadic cycle and it works. Like some days I'll have breakfast and some days I won't, And I feel like that with having an intentional practice, being able to have a good community, talk about what I'm doing that's working, having good aging models, having the information, like you said, like information is queen. I mean, she really is. Education, being able to learn what works for you. But we're still not touching on the emotional components that
so true.
That what I'm saying is what worked for me last year could possibly still work for me this year, but I've chosen to create something a little bit more sustainable where I started to feel the pressure of, okay, well now that I've lost this weight, I have a fear that I'm going to gain it back. So now I'm just going to not have anything that's, I'm going to do air quotes, bad, right? Because that's how we say, oh, I'm being good today. Like, I don't want it. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? Where's that coming from?
Exactly. Right. And the minute you show up to a party and you're like, oh, I can't have birthday. I mean, you say it out loud to people around you. Like, to me, that's a red flag for myself. If I'm going to show up and to a party or a celebratory event and be like, no, I can't have that. Like I can't, I think is a signal that it's gone beyond the realm of like sustainability and healthy choices and into the realm of a little bit of an obsession. Yeah. So I think it's really important to kind of like have those kind of checks and balances and do find the balance and do find the sustainability in it. And for me, you're just saying it, but I can't emphasize this enough. The educational piece, we are so used to having these quick bites of information, little snippets of like this statistic here and this statistic there. And even though we're giving you statistics, like I urge you to go educate yourself and figure out what works for you. I'm not ever saying it's a one size fits all model. Like I have done so much work on myself, trying and exploring and educating and figuring out what works for me. And like Rosie's saying, like maybe next year that won't work for me anymore. So my ability, my adaptability to be able to change with my body as it ages, because it really does change. Like what we need changes when we go through perimenopause and then in our postmenopausal years. Even so, like, for example, I can't have alcohol really at all anymore without having some side effects, like some visible, severe side effects. And for you, it's sugar. So when we go through our lives kind of expecting these quick fixes and for everything to stay the same always, I think we're just setting ourselves up for failure. And we're trying to talk about emotionally. How are we feeling emotionally? Like we feel like we're failing. We feel like I'm doing everything right. I'm eating well, I'm exercising, and I'm not getting the same result that I used to. Well, you got to be able to like really have a conversation with yourself about, well, what needs to change? Maybe that's not for me anymore, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
I love that I love what you said about what's working and then what doesn't work, because in perimenopause, this is like the wild, wild west. And I feel like if you're just tuning in, Tessa is in that experience as we speak. And it's been a navigation. For me, it lasted a solid four years, well, longer, because I started perimenopause when I was 35, now looking back. And I would say for the last year and a half post, I'm at a place now where it's like sustainability is the minute that I got on that program and I did my whole lifestyle change, everything's been steady, right? Like I've not really had to change my hormone, my HRT, because I am on hormone replacement therapy. I've not really had to change things too much, which to me, I'm like, okay, so it is, because I keep thinking like, is this going to change? Is this still working? So I say that because there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I know we've talked about this, but there is a point where you are then able to, like I wasn't having I went from having no sugar for many, many months, like 8. I counted. That's the longest
It's a
my
lot.
entire life. And even now I'm not doing processed sugar, but I do, on occasion, I might have a blueberry scone or something delicious. And I don't want to not be able to do something like I go to a party, or if I go to a nice dinner, I want to have dessert. Like I'm going to do it. But it is different now. My body's reacting different now because I'm not having it as often. And just so people know, I mean, our blood sugar levels are impacted by, yes, what we eat, stress, sleep, there are a lot of factors. And going back to what you said about navigating this stage of perimenopause, it is, again, the wild, wild west. You can get through it. You need consistent support, and you need to be constantly checking in with yourself. If something worked one week and it doesn't work the next, like that's possible. And it's okay. It's not a you thing. It's just a hormonal thing. It's what's happening to your body, and it's okay to recalibrate. It's okay to reset. And I think that's really important for people to acknowledge and to hear, because it does get better. I promise it gets better. And it's okay to be in that discomfort in that moment, especially when you're navigating.
If there's one takeaway from this whole conversation, I would say maybe make an honest assessment of your life and acknowledge where you're feeling like stuck in the safety. And when I say that, I mean you're unwilling to experience discomfort, because with these things comes discomfort. Now, I'm not saying like wallow in the pain and make yourself suffer on purpose, but there's a difference between those two. And so I would urge you to start to like really know what that feels like in your body. And I teach this all the time in my yoga class. So I feel like I'm always saying this. The ability to discern between like pain, chronic pain, something that's causing you harm, and just by virtue of being humans, we're gonna suffer. Like suffering is part of being human, and being able to, this is where growth happens. Discomfort happens with growth. And I'm sorry, but there's no way to separate the two. And if you're unwilling to experience some discomfort in your life or step outside of that safety bubble, things won't change. They won't. And you'll continue to feel that kind of like low grade chronic stress, misery of being stuck in this place of like shaming and blaming or whatever it is. So I think that's one thing I would just please like consider where you're feeling stuck. And there might be some ability to like move outside of your comfort zone there. Maybe see if that's possible with support, of course.
And the reason why that is so important specifically to body image is we've seen the statistics is most women, this is that one thing that can cause, it was for me, like the weight gain for me was what caused the most stress in my life. It wasn't all the other stuff. I'm like, I could deal with everything else, but I just didn't feel good in my body. Like my body was in pain and I was inflamed. I was so sad and unhappy and I felt lost. I felt like I didn't know what to do. Everything that I'd done before stopped working and I didn't see a way out. And I think that that's a great example of what you're saying, the difference between pain and discomfort. And if you'd asked me in that moment, I'm like, this is pain. This is not discomfort. I am in pain. I literally physically feel pain. And I feel like if I was to gauge this on a mild, moderate to severe scale, I would say that I was in a severe state of discomfort and pain.
Yeah, and I believe those two can exist simultaneously. And that's the thing. It's like It's so hard. It's hard to navigate these waters. I just have so much empathy. We get all of this information thrown at us, and maybe we go to our doctor and they're like, and this isn't a conversation that we'll have later, but maybe our doctors are like dismissive of our pain or dismissive of our symptoms, and I certainly had that experience. What I'm saying is, don't take everything that you read or see or hear at face value. Do the work, which is uncomfortable sometimes, to educate yourself. Maybe try a few new things outside of your comfort zone, and then really pay attention to how your body responds. And can you start to discern between, like, what is your head saying? We look in the mirror and we think, oh my God, I'm gaining all this weight. And yes, that might be true, but also, like, how are you feeling? When I eat this thing, how does it make me feel actually? Does my stomach hurt? Do I feel lethargic? Can I sleep at night? The food is just an example. It's like one little tiny piece of the pie. I mean, there's so many other factors. So if you cannot get bogged down by all this information, and I know it's overwhelming, and I mean, I guess the other takeaway I'd say is, like, start going back to the beginning of our conversation. How do we start to change the narrative and also check ourselves when we're going down that really negative rabbit hole? Can you get into the practice of, maybe it's looking in the mirror, maybe it's just having this conversation with yourself. What is one thing that you appreciate about your body today? It could be small, like you like the color of your eyes. Like, you don't have to adore your entire body in this moment exactly right now. It's okay to have things that you wish were different. Acknowledge those things, but also actively practice appreciating what you see or what you feel. Like, where is the good? Because there is good. Can you feel your feet? Do you like your hands? I mean, let it be like that simple.
Yeah. I love everything. I'm like, yes, 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 and yes. Those are some really great actionable steps. And I would say doing all of that, and it's okay if you choose something different every day. In fact, I would encourage you to choose something different every day. Maybe it's a skill you have, maybe it's something that allows you to feel that sense of appreciation. And again, not in a gaslighty way, but in a way for you to just take yourself out of that framework, right? So in CBT and cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the main components is to reframe negative thought. Well, reframe patterns, right? So if there is a pattern that you are observing that you have, first of all, it's going to require you to do some inquiry, some self-inquiry, which can be really challenging, but to be able to notice what's changing instead of focusing on what it is right now. It's like, this is a result of a lot of bad decisions, right? Like, we can't sit there and turn back the clock to 5 years ago when I was binging on Chicago mix popcorn and scoops of peanut butter as my midnight snack. I can't lament over something I've already done. If I'm standing with the result and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm feeling bad about myself, and if I focus on exactly what you said, what is the positive? What do I appreciate in this moment? What can I put my energy and focus into that I like, or that I can not have a negative reaction to? Because I've had the moments where I'm like, nothing. And somebody could be watching this or listening to this right now and be asking us as we're talking, like, what if it's nothing? Like, what if nothing about my body, or I'm struggling with the illness or my body, or I'm going through chemotherapy and my body has betrayed me and there's nothing that I can think of. What I would say is, well, first I would send you a lot of love and compassion, because that's what we're here to do. And next, I would offer you to bring your energy and your attention back to neutral. And how do you achieve that? And for people, certain people, it's going to be different. Maybe neutral is take a moment and sit down, maybe close your eyes, take a moment to just feel your breath, notice your body, Notice your body breathing. Don't even go into a narrative of, do I appreciate? Do I not appreciate? It's like, what works, what doesn't work? It's like, just be with your breath and be with your aliveness. Like the fact that you are alive in this moment, so many aren't. Like that within itself is a great place to start, to begin. Can we start from a place of just noticing our aliveness? And I'm not saying, oh, be grateful or cultivate this or cultivate that. It's like, just notice. And for some, that's going to be enough. For those of you that can take more actionable steps, like the practice Tessa gave us, that I think is absolutely brilliant, and it's something that I had to do that worked for me, I think it's also a great place to start. I would also offer the importance of being around people that are navigating the same experience or have navigated it before you. And if you find somebody like I did when I first started looking for friends, and I got the gaslight of, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. Or, oh, yeah, no, I never got on HRT or whatever. It's like, that causes cancer. You know, you're going to get so many different people's opinions. And guess what? What a great opportunity to practice having different friends with diverse opinions. Find the one that works for you. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment below. And also, Tessa and I are both on Substack. So if you haven't subscribed, I encourage you to do so. You can find those links in the info button of this podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, in the description below. Thank you so much for being here. We're here to support you, and we look forward to seeing you back soon.